What's going on, Dolphins fans? Jacob here, Miami Dolphins Syndicate. It's a pretty dark and gloomy day outside, and that kind of represents the time that it is, as it's time for every single team to get their team down to the 53-man roster, and that means loads and loads of cuts, especially with this year being the first year that there's been no previous cut dates. So we're going from around 90 players down to 53 starting tomorrow, and I've already seen some cuts being made, so quickly I'm going to go over that list. Starting off with Malik Reed, Jaron Christian, Aubrey Miller, Josiah Bronson, Chris Coleman, Miles Dorney, Tino Ellis, Mark Gilbert, Mike Rose, and Freddie Swain is the list that I have currently at the time of recording this. Very likely that by the time I'm done making this, that somebody else has been cut. But those are the guys so far, and there's going to be, like I said, quite a few more so far. So I think the most noteworthy name on that list would be Aubrey Miller. Was signed as an undrafted free agent and was one of the hopefuls as to be the guy this year to be the undrafted free agent that makes the team and makes his mark on the team. We've seen guys in years past like Kader Kahu, Nick Needham make this team and have immediate impacts, and Aubrey Miller was expected to be one of those guys. Does not look like that's going to be the case. Also, Tino Ellis, who was on the team last year, and was playing with the third and fourth stringers most of preseason, but at a position at cornerback where we are pretty weak. Maybe a little bit of a surprise to see him go. But while we've seen that list of guys go down and get cut, and potentially there is room for some of those guys to come back on the practice squad. However, with the amount of guys that are going to be cut, with those being the first of the bunch to get cut, I'm not quite sure if those are the guys that the team is going to look to bring back. But I would like to take a look at some of the guys that I think have a solid chance of getting cut or traded, because there are some names on this team that might not be on the team just because of their contract. So starting off with some cuts, and the biggest look is at the wide receiver position. That's been one of the biggest battles all camp as to who's going to be that starting 6, maybe 7 wide receivers that get onto the 53-man roster. Of course, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle are going to be a part of it. You soon guys like Robbie Anderson, Braxton Berrios, who were brought in this offseason, are also going to be a part. So that's 4. That leaves 2 or 3 more spots. So that leaves that between guys like River Craycraft, even Eric Ezukanma, Braylon Sanders, David Davis, who did go down in the game against the Jaguars, and he was released from the hospital. So very glad to hear about that. Those are fringe guys. We've already seen Chris Coleman go down as a guy that's brought in. There's also Kiki Cootie, who's been brought in, has been mostly running work in the special teams, but he could potentially make it as a wide receiver. Haven't seen him got a lot of work in that area, so if he makes the team, it will be on the basis of his special teams ability. So I'm very curious as to see what's going to happen with those wide receivers. Like I said, I assume it's going to be Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Braxton Berrios, Robbie Anderson, but then it is question marks from there on out. Eric Ezukanma, I believe, he's going to get a chance as one of the higher draft picks, or just draft picks in general, from the team. And River Craycraft is somebody who I can definitely see getting cut, but being brought back on the practice squad just like he was last year. So I think Eric Ezukanma is going to get that 5th spot, and then probably a Braylon Sanders or somebody else get that 6th spot, and there's still some room for cut candidates within there. I did mention trades, and I think the biggest one we could look for to be traded would be Emmanuel Ogbah. He's on a relatively big contract and has been getting runs with the twos on defense all preseason, all training camp. He's been clearly behind Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb, and I can definitely see him being uneasy with his spot in the depth chart, his spot in the pecking order, and with the money he is getting, the Dolphins might be a little bit more inclined to get rid of him, especially when you just re-signed Zach Zeeler, and you have 2 solid edge rushers, one on a rookie deal, one that you just signed to a massive extension as well. So Zach Zeeler getting his extension done. You guys know my opinion on Christian Wilkins. I'm uncertain whether I want to be giving that much money to a defensive tackle, especially when we just gave that much to Zach Zeeler. We'd have around 15, 16, 17% of our salary cap likely tied up between 2 defensive tackles. Excuse me. I'm not sure if that's something that I want to do. But in order to make that easier, trading somebody like Emmanuel Ogbah, it would make a lot of sense. I was actually quite surprised he'd still be on the team. Cedric Wilson, I did mention him with the wide receivers. Another guy that I could see possibly get traded. He's looked all right during preseason, all right during camp. Never has quite hit the ground running since joining the Miami Dolphins, coming over from the Dallas Cowboys. Thought he was coming over to be the wide receiver 2. Ended up starting the season as a wide receiver 3, and then fell definitely behind Trent Sherfield last year. You could argue he fell behind guys even like River Craycraft, where he just wasn't getting a lot of targets, wasn't getting a lot of work in on the offense. He's somebody who I can see getting traded. I really expected him to get traded around the time of the draft for a 5th, 6th, or 7th round pick. That did not happen. As these teams had to cut down to 90, Emmanuel Ogbah, I can see a trade casualty, not a cut casualty, but a trade casualty, as well as somebody like Cedric Wilson. But there's a whole host of guys that are going to be look to be traded or cut. And again, just one more time, rounding out that list of guys who we've already seen cut from the team. Going to be Malik Reed, Jerron Christian, Josiah Bronson, Aubrey Miller, Chris Coleman, Miles Dorney, Tino Ellis, Mark Gilbert, Mike Rose, and Freddie Swain. Who are some guys that you think are going to be cut from the team and let go? Who are some fringe guys that you hope makes the team? Let us know down below in the comments. Thank you all very much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe. Have a great rest of your day. Take care, everybody.